Welcome, Reanimated fans. We've been a little bit behind on the recording game just because of the holidays and all sorts of fun things popping up, but we're back just ahead of the new year. Today we're going to be reviewing an oldie but goodie, well, I guess somewhat goodie, there's some good moments, but it was a mockumentary series just for one season that aired on MTV in 2011 called Death Valley, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But ahead of that, we have a couple of news tidbits. Stuart's going to start us off by launching into the article he found about the mid-season finale of Walking Dead Season 8.
Yeah, sadly, I have to talk to myself about this mostly because HA, despite many promises to catch up over the, quote, holiday time, has not seen all of the first half of Season 8 of The Walking Dead. And
well, you know how it is. You can't really watch this on the train. People get freaked out. It's hard to do this in just because people are nosy. Yeah. And the only one that I've been successful in watching on the subway has actually been Fear the Walking Dead, and that's I think only because it's a little, I don't know, a little easier to watch somehow on the subway than The Walking Dead is and I don't know why.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but more power to you.
But anyway, you go ahead and talk.
So, Fear the Walking Dead, the Prime show, had its mid-season finale several weeks ago now, in early December, and I can't wait to talk to you about this season, HA, because it's honestly I feel like it's been bad. If I could just go so far as to make that one judgment, and then I will leave all of my opinions for later. But and I think that's borne out in the numbers for the show. So Variety magazine has an article from December 12th talking about how the final episode for the mid-season had a 3.4 rating. And only 7.9 million viewers, which I think is pretty miserable for the Prime show, considering what it's capable of in the past.
Right, and also it's been pretty consistent in the numbers, but I also wonder if some of this is also a little bit of Walking Dead fatigue, because you have Fear the Walking Dead. This is now in its 8th season. And then, there's actually just a ton of stuff out there for people to watch that are, so maybe this, we're seeing a little bit of a drop off just because of all the content that's out there.
Could be.
And
eight seasons is a long time for any show.
It is. And, there's other things out there for people into, a post-apocalyptic world. And then, I don't know if you're a fan, but Dark Mirror, their new season just came out yesterday, the full season on Netflix. So I feel like there's just a lot of content competing now, and I wonder if we're going to see a little bit more of that. And I mean, Amazon and Netflix have been pushing their original series hard. So I'm curious to see if this is a blip or if this is going to be sort of a diminishing returns thing for The Walking Dead.
Yeah, well, we can definitely weigh in more with our artistic, for what they're worth, our opinions on the way the story's going when we get around to reviewing Season 8. But we have to review Season 7 still, I think. So that's not going to be for a while. But I just thought I'd throw it out there. Numbers are not looking super great for the Prime series after the mid-season for 2017. So going into 2018, I guess they'll be hoping to turn that around, and we'll see what happens there.
Right. And next up, an ending of sorts, probably not due to lower ratings, but perhaps due to just the creator is a little tired of dealing with the controversy. But Jason Dixon, who, as some of you may remember, is the gentleman who brought us such things as the zombie nativity in Ohio. He has decided that he is going to after this year, this was his last year doing it, he is selling off or putting it in storage. I think this was the whole thing that started this free speech question, because he got sued and they had they sued him over zoning issues and things like that, and ultimately he won. I think he maybe is just a little tired about it, doesn't want to go on with it, but I like the effort that he put into it up until this point, and also protecting free speech for zombie nativity aficionados everywhere.
Yeah, fighting the good fight there, I guess.
Fighting the good fight. Lastly, just to round out our positive news sequence this year, I don't know if you saw this in the news. I, of course, followed several news articles about this, and I got a little freaked out. This article didn't make me feel any better, but this was exactly what I was thinking. There had been a moratorium on a certain type of research in terms of viral research. And the National Institute of Health had a moratorium on the way that scientists could study and virologists could study certain types of viruses like flu viruses, Ebola, and things like that. And basically the rule is that they could not deliberately mutate these viruses in a lab setting for obvious reasons. Just because containment is very difficult. We have seen this in the past. And for whatever reason, they say because they need to study better cures for this, they have lifted this moratorium. And I have to say, when I saw the 3 different articles, my immediate reaction was, well, there's the start of 28 days later or whatever, the best laid plans. And, some of the comments, specifically in the New York Times article about this, are not exactly confidence-inspiring comments from different scientists on this.
Right.
And it definitely worries me a little bit. And one of the biggest controversies and the reason why this moratorium had been in place is that a few of these viruses did not have a very high they weren't able to easily transmit between, whatever animal. Usually it's like a pig or a bird or a cat or whatever. They couldn't easily transfer from animal to human. And by mutating these viruses, that is exactly what that is allowing it to do, so that they can study it and supposedly study cures for these things. But, throw a mutated virus out in the world and you never know what's going to happen. So I look in, hopefully their containment process is good and solid. I'm going to have to try to be positive about this as opposed to freaking out. But I saw my favorite Middle Eastern virus, MERS, was in there too.
Great.
I was like, that's awesome. Why don't we mutate that? Because it's not scary enough as it is. Did you see any of these before I had put it in there?
No, I hadn't heard about this. And yeah, this is suitably terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't trust just like Joe scientist who's going to be like, yeah, I've got all the best intentions. Like, okay, well, great. Then I feel a lot better.
Well, right. And it's like, they have a lot of things like justifying these risks and, it's the way that the scientists who they interview talk about this that freak me out the most. And it's just a little bit when they say it's like to gain a function of research and that kind of thing, it's just it's a little disturbing. And I don't know, they seem to be talking a lot and not talking about how they're making this safer. And, they have like certain requirements for the review panels and things like that. But most of the scientists that they're talking to are just like saying that the review panels are a very small piece. One of the people said, this is the quote that kind of stood out to me. It's like, recent disease-enhancing experiments, he said, have given us a modest scientific knowledge and have done almost nothing to improve our preparedness for pandemics, and yet risk creating an accidental pandemic. So,
Jesus.
and that was Mark Lipsitch, who is an epidemiologist who directs the Center for Communicable Disease Dynamics at Harvard School of Public Health. So this is a little worrying when things like comments like that are being made by people who know the most about this. So stay tuned. I hope there are not other articles that come out about this because they have failed in keeping this safe. So,
utterly
so we'll
terrifying.
See. Yep. So launching us into the new year on a positive note. And
on
then
another positive note.
Here, you can round this out in a better way because this is happier news.
So Fear the Walking Dead everybody plus Forbes' favorite zombie show on television.
Yeah.
Although this is not from Forbes. They have some new cast members coming to Fear the Walking Dead. Why, do you ask? Well, as we might remember at the end of season 3, they might have killed off everybody except for except for what's her name, the blonde lady. God damn it! It's only been like a month and I've already forgotten all their names.
Yeah,
Mrs. Clark.
Mom. The mom, Madison.
Maddie Clark. She's the only one we saw after they all went through the dam. And okay, so. But the new cast members coming to Fear the Walking Dead. We already knew this one. Lenny James is making the hop over from the main show. Mm-hmm. So we can see crazy old... Nope, his name's not Dwight. Is it Dwight? That was his son's name. Dwayne.
That was the son. Yep.
What's his character's name?
No, I don't remember.
Why are we not good at this right now?
I don't know. Probably too many holiday, like stress things.
Morgan,
yes.
Morgan is coming over. One that kind of threw me for a loop, Jenna Elfman, who I know mostly for like a sitcom in the late 90s, and then I have not seen her in much else, like Dharma and Greg.
Yep.
So I guess she's making the jump over to horror, and that's cool.
And such rom-coms as Keeping the Faith.
Yeah, like wow. She's coming over. Some Canadian guy called Kevin Zegers, who I've never heard of, and then Garrett Dillahunt, who I'm extremely excited about because he's hilarious. He was a main cast member on the Mindy Project. He was a main cast member in Deadwood before he found comedy. He was also in Raising Hope. I think he has great comic timing, but he can also do an excellent villain. So we'll have to see if he's what side of the moral compass he's gonna fall on. But he is. I was thrilled to see his name pop up in this list.
Yeah, no, it looks promising, and then the Morgan piece is definitely interesting. So, I'm looking forward to it. And there were some really good moments in this last season, so we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's a much better note to leave the news on for for us to go into the new year.
Yeah.
But are you ready to talk about what we are going to talk about today?
Sure. Let's hit up Death Valley, the TV show from 2011. Yes. Going back in time a little bit.
We're going back in time. I mean, it's on Amazon Prime, and this aired on MTV. And it was a scripted television series from Liquid Theory, and it was supposed to be a little bit more like a web series or that kind of thing. And this reminded me a little bit of it's definitely like a mockumentary and that whole kind of thing. Do you remember the one like the cops or whatever it was? Like it was a little like it was definitely a spoof on a lot of different things at that time. Yeah. It does feel a little dated, but I did think that there was some good writing in here, and there's a couple of people that popped up in here that are some familiar faces.
Let's talk cast. Let's
talk cast.
I really enjoy seeing Bryan Callen in most things.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got just great delivery. And if you watch the Goldbergs, he's like the PE teacher. That's right. Like his regular role right now, and he kills it. And it's a very similar role. He's like police captain or gym teacher. It's like same kind of male archetype, right. I guess. But he nails that role, and it's so much fun to watch.
Right, and in this, he's just like one of his little shticks is that he pretty much hits on and is inappropriate with every single member of his team. His deliveries are perfect, and done really well. So I really liked him in this. Also, Charlie Sanders. I don't know if you oddly enough, I feel like he plays a cop a lot too.
Well, he was in Key and Peele.
Because he was in Key and Peele, which is what I had seen him in first. Which obviously came after this, but just kind of funny, right? And then, Tanya Raymond, who did you watch? Were you a Lost fan at all? Lost fan?
Yeah. Wait, she was in Lost. Who was she in Lost?
She was like somebody's like adopted kid or something, right? Yes, she was. She was
Alex Russo.
Yeah, Alex Russo. So she was.
I don't remember her from Lost, but that show really lost me, if you know what I'm saying.
She would you if you didn't stay with it, you would, because she was a little further in, but she was really good in that. She was in The Last Ship.
Yeah, I remember her from The Last Ship because she had a really weird death scene in that show where she basically got killed off camera.
Yeah.
I was just like, why would you ever do that to anybody? If you
but
like
I really,
yeah.
Yeah, but I really liked her in this. I thought she was awesome. So, it only had one season, and I don't know that you could do much with this beyond the one season.
Also, there's don't forget about Texas Battle. Bryce Johnson are kind of
right.
We're fine, but Katie Lotz, who
right.
is Kirsten Landry,
Yep.
and she is a big deal now on the CW because
Yep.
she is one of these superhero people.
Yep.
The
White Canary.
White Canary. Thank you. I was gonna not get that one right. White Swan was what I was gonna say. And so she jumps back and forth between Arrow and DC Future of the Hero or whatever that show is, which I only watched like 2 episodes of and had to stop because it was making my brain hurt. But yeah, so I think that's her main gig right now.
Yep. So they had, so it's almost like before they became who they were, but a really good cast. And I also think it was very clear that they were having a lot of fun in this. So I liked that too. And who else? There was a couple other main people in here. Well, you already talked about Texas Battle. And I don't know. It'll come to me. There was one other person that I was going to mention, but whatever. But on with it. So I would say, the basic summary of this particular series is that the San Fernando Valley has been overrun with, supernatural creatures, your usual bevy of werewolves, zombies, vampires. And this cop task force is called the Undead Task Force. And they're basically there to deal with this outbreak, which has basically just taken over. Very tongue-in-cheek. There's like a camera crew that's documenting all of this. So, and I did enjoy how they use the camera crew in this, unlike some other things. They definitely are part of it, and it's really there's some really good moments.
Yeah, that's like a departure from the mockumentary trope, is that they actually have their sound guy have lines and die in some cases. But I did notice that there was never a cameraman in the shot until like late in the season.
Right.
Even when they had like scenes of them driving around in their squad car, and in the back seat you just have the boom operator, but there was nobody else in the back seat. And you're like, wait a second, who's shooting all this? Yeah, there were. It wasn't on purpose, but there were some times when I was pulled out of suspension of disbelief because I was just like, wait a second, how did the cameraman get in front of them while they're shooting at zombies? And that doesn't seem like a good idea. Some of these sorts of things.
Right. One of my favorite though was like when in like I think either in the first or second episode, the donut shop scene. Mm-hmm. That was pretty awesome. And basically the boom guy gets taken out by like a zombie in the back. And it's really, and then they like make light of it for the next poor guy.
Yeah, that's the pilot. I think that was the first.
Is that
episode.
The pilot? Okay. Yeah. But that stood out. I liked how they definitely had their own little mythology here. Like the zombies, the fresh ones are faster. So they have that going on. There's all sorts of activities that basically are surrounding this outbreak, like the zombie battles that somebody's filming, which, Yeah,
it's basically bump fights, but for zombies. It's
right.
Kind of stuff you would expect to see on a show like this, I guess. So some of the overarching stuff on this show I thought that was interesting were like their very cavalier approach to death,
right?
Where they would just kill off cast members, at least the boom operators. Very
easily,
nonchalantly, and some other people, like when that guy from Internal Affairs, is it, or what, that cop who was the suit who wants them to wear the body cameras and read the notes to the zombies, the puss.
Yep.
That was one of the funniest episodes in my opinion.
Yeah, that was good.
They would very nonchalantly just kill people, and the approach to mortality in this show was extremely chill, but it also made you like care less, I guess, about everybody. Was my the other side of the coin for me. I don't know how you felt about that approach that they took.
No, I agree with you. I mean, you they become so cavalier that it's hard to care when people die, even when it's, and like I think that's a deliberate part of it, and they're making light of it. But overall, I did enjoy watching this. I thought this was like a fun little romp. Would I go out and recommend that everybody see this?
Yes, I would.
Like, I think if you're into this, I think this is a lot of fun, and the writing, I think, has some really good moments, and it is uncomfortable comedy to some extent, depending on what your comfort level is. But I think overall, I was okay with how they handled all of this, and they had some good storylines, like they have to, like, there's like a whole underlying theme, like the vampires have this secret thing going on where they have to do an undercover operation and things like that, and it's ridiculous, like, and it's meant to be ridiculous, but I was laughing out loud for like at least at a few points during every episode. So I don't know how you felt about it.
Part of me was also a little bit disappointed in how it was it was written almost like from the perspective of the cop Bryce, who is just he's just chasing tail and really into porn, and we're gonna just have hot chicks. Well, and it's gonna be mostly a show with humor that's directed towards like teenage boys.
Well, I think that it was. I also think what's interesting about thinking about that and talking about that is where we're at now compared to 2011. I think we're much more aware of things like that, and those kinds of themes being there, and what's appropriate, what's not. And I definitely think that's the audience that they were playing to in this. And even with some of the stuff with the sexual harassment, although he is like an equal opportunity sexual harasser. But it's interesting because I was thinking about that even in the, like, watching this. I was like, wow, I don't know that this is a choice that they would make now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a positive thing. Yeah. And I do think, though, that, they played the genre well for what it was, and the effects were appropriately cheesy.
The effects were decent. Like the makeup and everything was good.
And they did silly things like the stunt things. And I also I did like how, and I keep calling her White Canary because I forget the name of her character. This is terrible.
It's because Dashel can never remember it either.
I know.
It's Christine.
But I did like how she's like an expert in martial arts and things like that, yet is always is doing things, and nobody has ever really seen how awesome she is.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like taking out various baddies and just kind of getting no credit for it. So, so there were definitely cool things like that going on. But I did wonder, like, if this was made now, although I think they've kind of like played this particular idea out. Whether the script would be a little bit different, and I think it probably would. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts? I know this is like a tough one, right?
It's a bit of a tough one to distill,
to talk about. Yeah.
But like I said, I had some real laugh out loud episodes, and I liked all the zombie stuff, the werewolf stuff. I was a little more on the fence about. But then, they have the episode where she has to go around and check with registered werewolves to make sure they're locked up on a full moon. I was like, this is kind of cool. It's like they put some thought into those world creation. So I thought that was a good...
Yeah, there was definitely moments where they had thought out what this would mean if something like this happened. So I liked that.
Yeah. I was a little bit, like I said, a little bit turned off by the type of humor, just a little, because I felt like it doesn't work with kind of, especially with the climate that we're in right now at the end of this year.
Right.
It just felt a little bit too basic.
Yeah, I mean, well, and think about where it aired and when,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that I mean, but this has also not ever been this is not the kind of humor that I'm super into. Um, so that's also part of it too. But yeah, there were multiple cringeworthy moments in this, and not in the I'm uncomfortable like I don't know. My husband and I have a disagreement about like the kind of humor that we both like. He really dislikes anything that's sort of like BBC Office, like ultra
Oh,
reality humor
yeah.
that just makes him uncomfortable and want to leave. Like he has contact embarrassment, sort of like like
Yeah.
I can't. I'm empathizing too much with this character. I have to get out of here. And there are definitely moments like that here where you're just like, oh. And I think part of why it resonates is that you can totally imagine that situation happening, even though it's in this farcical world. So it's a little bit it's a little bit hard to take sometimes. But still, I didn't think that this was the most terrible thing in the world, and it's certainly not the worst thing that we have watched, and it wasn't hard to watch like some other things have been. So I think if you're bored and you're trying to decompress from holiday visits, go for it. Watch it.
Yeah. And you know, it's not just like this show actually got a pretty good. It's got 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 7.9 out of 10 stars on IMDb. It, I guess, had like no audience, which is why they canceled it after one season. But it's a decent show if you just have to kind of like become a less woke version of yourself to watch it a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. I think it's going to be interesting to actually see watching certain things in retrospect, and I think it's already happening, where things resonate. And I've noticed this with other classic movies and films, and especially comedies and things like that. And as I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we're just so much more aware of it now. But like some of the sexism and racism that is just rampant and really like uncomfortable to watch, to the level where certain films basically edit out certain scenes, because it is so controversial, and it's interesting to think about that. And I'm thinking of most recently, have you ever seen, is it Holiday Inn, I think? The Bing Crosby holiday film. There's like a
No.
whole huge section in that that I honestly don't think I had ever seen, because I guess when they play it on TMC, they edit out a whole scene where there's this whole basically a blackface number.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's I think it's good that people are aware of it and are this sensitive to it, but it's our history and we got to look at it, but it is sometimes really hard to watch. So yeah, so I don't know. What are you thinking about for the new year? What's on your horror watching list, Mr. Tiffin?
I've been watching The Crown, so I've been watching a lot of Matt Smith, and
Yeah.
watching Matt Smith do Philip the Duke of Edinburgh makes me think, where the hell is his zombie movie, man? I want to see the Patient Zero or whatever it was called.
I know. What happened with
So
that?
last time we talked about it, it was on like indefinite hiatus or whatever.
And what happened to our zombie holiday musical?
Okay, ladies and gents, that's that wraps up our ish review of Death Valley, the TV show back from the heady days of 2011. And we will be back again next time with a review of a film that looks really good on Netflix called Rise of the Zombie. So, oh, and by the way, we promised you guys Outcast, and then it turned out that that was not available to be watched in the United States. So we'll be back with that Robert Kirkman demon story when it's available. But next time we'll have Rise of the Zombie on Reanimated, and that'll be episode 160, I think,
Woo!
or somewhere around there. 100, yeah.
I think it's 159.
159. Well, close.
Almost.
Right, round
almost. Round up.
So yeah, check us out again next time for that. And in the meantime, you know how to reach us. We're out there on the internet. And thanks for listening.
Ciao.